All right. Welcome back to whatever episode this is. Um, what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna attempt to make like a very basic trance song. I've never really made a song while doing a screen recording before, so just bear with me. And hopefully this will just kind of illuminate just a couple of the basic elements of creating electronic music. All right. So first thing I do is I usually just kind of zoom in and place the looping points around just one bar. Electronic music is really repetitive, and if you're well, a lot of it is, and if you're really into it, then you shouldn't mind the extreme, repetitious journey that you are in for, known as creating electronic music, because you're going to be listening to loop after loop after loop for hours. I mean, if you care about making a good song, you will be, but you'll totally get into it, so don't worry. All right, so we've got the left and right looping points here. I'm going to go over my rack here. And as I was saying before, if you hold shift when you're creating something, it is not going to automatically route it for you. The only exception to this is I would say just let it, I'm not going to hold shift this time. Just let it route it for you when you add an instrument right off the bat. So if we create like a subtractor analog synthesizer, the reason I did not hold shift is because if I did, it would have not routed it to one of these mix channels automatically. And we pretty much always want it to route to one of these mix channels. So we start off with a subtractor. What I like to do is I right click on it and I say initialize patch. As you can see, it's set to a bass guitar right now up here. But if I hit initialize patch, you can see some of these guys all moved back to their very default positions. So this is like the blank patch, and I like to start with that. And I'm going to name this bass. As you can see, when I named this bass over in the sequencer here, this changed to bass right here. And I'm pretty sure yeah, okay. So when I rename it here, it corresponds to this. So this little sticky piece of tape here with the name on it is the same thing as this guy over here. I would like to say, however, that this guy up here you can change, and I do not think it will change other stuff. Yeah, see, for example, it still says bass synth here and here, but over here, we can change it around. This one usually inherits a name from this little sticky piece of tape here. And this guy right here, if we bring the mixer over, you will see that is the name that it's pulling from. So, okay, cool. So, and I'm just going to do Control S. I am a maniac for doing Control S for saving my project constantly. Try and do that as much as you can, but it's going to happen to you that you lose a ton of work at some point, and that is going to be the point where you become a maniac for pressing Control S every like 10 seconds. So, I've got our little bass synth here, and you know what? Let's create a little note group. That's the last time I'm going to use the pencil tool to create the note group, simply because it is faster to always keep yourself on the selection tool, and when you're over here to hold down Alt. When you're holding down Alt, and it temporarily will change to the pencil tool. You let go, it goes back to the selection tool. So I would recommend doing that, and I'm going to do that from now on. So if you see the cursor suddenly change to the pencil tool, it's because I'm hitting Alt. So we've created a little group right here. We're going to double click on it, and I am going to zoom in a little bit more. And then same thing in here. If you hold down Alt, pencil tool comes up. And let's hear where we are on the octave, or on the keyboard rather. All right, let's make our bass in, I guess that would be D. And let's just make simple trance offbeat bass line like this. And let's hit let's hit let's hit the stop button twice to bring the playhead back to the beginning, and hit play. Oh, we're still at 90 tempo. I'm going to grab and bring that up to 140, which is pretty much where most trance happens, around 140, 135. Cool. All right, so that's our really, really basic trance bass. Let's go back out of edit mode. We got that down. Now let's add a. You know what? Screw this. Let's not use the initial patch. Let's load up a patch. I mean, that's half the fun of making electronic music, anyways, is using other people's patches and then messing with those. So we'll hit Browse Patch, and right now it brought us immediately to the Subtractor Patches folder, which is inside the Reason Factory Sound Bank, which is a refill. And a refill is essentially just a collection of folders and patches and samples and stuff, which has all been wrapped up in a file called a refill for easy distribution. And it's a file format that Propellerhead made. So, well, I kind of lost my way, but let's go back into the root of the Reason Factory Sound Bank. And then let's look through here. Where are we? Scroll down a little bit. Subtractor patches. There we go. Double click on that. All right, we got a couple basic ones here, but let's go into this folder here for bass. Give us a lot of different ones. I like bread bass, actually. It's always been my favorite if I am going to use a patch. Let's click on one, a couple down from bread bass, just so we can hear a couple of them. Hit play. That's probably kind of hard for you to hear, but it's pretty low. And we can hit up on here, and it's going to scroll through to another one. Ooh, that's kind of cool and trancey. Yeah, I like bread bass, but I also kind of like this guy here, Bustin' Loose. That's badass. Okay, cool. So we got like a bass sound that we're comfortable with now. So let's create another instrument. Let's go down to redrum. Drum computer. I pronounce it redrum. Some people pronounce it red rum, like the thing from The Shining. But the way Propellerhead does all of their names, it's always like this, read that, recycle, reason, rebirth. So I just think it's redrum. But what do I know? Okay, so when you load up a drum machine, it's always going to start you out with a basic kit. And we can do the same thing. We can go right-click and initialize patch. Unfortunately, because we're working with a sampler, that's going to clear everything out. We don't get any sounds anymore. So I'm going to hit Control-Z to go back. So we got, so the disco kit is what we started with. I was never much a fan of those sounds, so I'm going to click this little folder button here. We can load up a patch. And a patch for a redrum unit is essentially just a set of 10 samples that go together, that went together and somebody decided to wrap them up in a little patch. Let's go into house kits because that's kind of the closest thing. We could go to techno kits, but I find that house kits are kind of the closest thing that we can find to trance in here. Let's try the first one. It's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like all these sounds. Except we don't really have an open hi-hat, so let's individually load one up. Let's hit this folder up here. We're in the snare drum folder, so we got to go one up, back into exclusive drums sorted, and let's go into hi-hats. Let's scroll down to the bottom where I know there's some. Here we go. Oh, that's a nice one. I always like that one. So let's load that one up. So now we've got a nice kick. And let's pitch that back to its regular. Oh, and the length has been turned down, so let's turn that back up. There we go. That's nice. And the more I think about it, I don't like this bass drum, so I'm going to pick a different one. Okay, I actually like that one. I'm going to turn the level up a little bit. All right, cool. So now we've got a little bit of a kit going here. So let's go back to our sequencer, and let's just create like a basic little drum pattern. For trance, you kind of want like this, I guess kind of, they call it like the 4 on the floor pattern. So you just want, you know, essentially that. You can have a clap on every second like that. And oh, you can't really hear this guy. Let's turn him up a little bit. Let's pan him to the right. By the way, panning, if ever you see something that says pan, it means left speaker, right speaker. So if I go like that, probably hear him over there. If I go like that, probably hear him over there, unless you're listening to this video in mono. But if you're listening in stereo, which hopefully you are, because it's about making music, let's have him a little bit over there. All right, let's try him out. Wow, I'm so OCD about this, but I think I'm going to go back to bread bass because I like it better. All right, cool. And let's add one more thing here. Let's add this hi-hat. Let's put him a little bit over to the left, though. And you know what? Maybe the bass should come up an octave because it seems a little... That's cool. I like it low like that. But it flows a little bit better when it's higher like this, I think. Yeah, there we go. And if we wanted, we could extend the bass notes, give it a little bit of a different feeling. I'm going to turn down these guys a little bit. You know what? Let's swap out the clap, too. Ooh, that one's kind of nice. These tone knobs down here, they're not under every single drum channel. You only get 1, 2, 3 of them, but they're kind of just like, they up the high frequencies, so we've got like, makes it a little bit more piercing. I don't want too much of it for the clap, though. All right, cool. So that's like your basic, it's like your basic trance drum combo. A couple other little things you can do with the bass. You hear this in kind of like a lot of Euro stuff, is you have like a little double bass pattern like this. And it's usually at a bit of a higher tempo, but that's another thing you can do. Let's Control Z out of that. And a couple other little bass patterns that I like to do for trance is like moving the first two over, or the first and third over, like this. But yeah, I mean, almost every trance song from the early 2000s had this basic offbeat bass pattern here. And the next thing we can do is we can make a little bit of a... Hey, you know what? Let's clear these guys out. Move them over here. There we go. We can see on our mini map, we've got our drums in a different column now. Now let's add a subtractor. No, you know what? Screw it. Let's add a Thor. Thor is a new synth that came in Reason, I want to say 4. And you can do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. But let's just load up a pre-made patch for now. Lead synths. Ooh, Dutch lead. That could be trancey. Let's try that. All right, so we loaded up Dutch lead. Now we go back here and we got Thor here. Let's solo Thor and let's make a little block. Double click. That's a pretty cool sound. It's not exactly what I'm looking for though. Let's try Dutch lead too. No, absolutely not. Combing lead. A little bit more what I'm looking for, but you know what? Let's just like scroll through here till we find something cool. No, not at all. Okay. I guess one thing that's pretty fun to do is make a little pattern. Even if you don't like the patch you're listening to, make a little pattern and then just have the pattern keep looping while you scroll through patches. And it'll give you a much better idea. You won't have to keep going over here and pressing this. So let's zoom in just a tad. Sometimes what I like to do when I'm making a little trance arpeggiations is I will turn off the snap. The hotkey for that is S, by the way. And I will make the notes a little bit shorter than 1/16th. And then I will hit S, and as you can see, snap went back on. And then I use these little shorter notes as like little bass notes. And I just do a little pattern like this. And like that. And then I make a little top note, and the top note can be a little bit longer. The top note can be like a full 16th. And we just copy those over. Let's make the bottom ones just a little bit shorter. Turn to snap off again. There, and turn snap back on. All right, now we can keep looping that while we listen and try and find a patch that we like. That one's kind of cool. Let's move it up. And let's move this one around here a little bit so it's like... let's put one more in there like that. All right, so that's just like a really simple little pattern. Let's hear what that sounds like with our other stuff. All right, so it's coming together to kind of sound like a trance song. This is not as interesting as it could be because I'm not using the terminology correctly, but the bass note is the same as the higher note here. So if we change this guy around a little bit, like we could go... All right, cool. Let's mess around. Let's just do a little bit more work in the sequencer so we can kind of get a little bit more of a handle on the sequencer. Something that I like to do when I'm messing around with making a trance song is I'll make like a really basic melody like this, but then I will copy and paste it, so that we've maybe got 4 of them. And then you can either right-click and hit Join Clips, or you can just hit Control-J. And that joins them all into one group or clip. And then put the looping points around here. I always forget to do that. Open it up, and then we can kind of see it all at once. And then we can kind of edit it a little bit, just to make it a little bit more interesting, less repetitive. So we've got this. All right, cool. So now we've got a little bit of a different swing at the very end of the second one. And that seems like the perfect time to change to like a different, slightly different, I guess, key. I don't know. I don't really know anything about music theory, so maybe we'll call it a different key. Oh, also, I usually turn off that feature where it kind of previews the notes as you're moving them around, because it really pisses me off. So let's go up here, options. You know what? It might be under edit and preferences. Trigger notes while editing. No, screw that. Let's turn that off. Much better. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So now that the song is taking a little bit more shape, let's go back to the rack temporarily, and let's just mess around with this patch a little bit. Let's just kind of see what kind of coolness we can get out of it. I think I like it best like that, with the frequency all the way up and this little unison button on. So let's just stick with that for now, and let's hit this show programmer button. That's going to take away all that stuff in the programmer that we just saw, just to make it a little bit more easy on the eyes in the rack here. Let's go back to the sequencer. So now we know we've got these first two bars here match up fine with the bass line we had, but now we've got to make a new bass line that matches these second two bars. And so this is D, I guess, and then we got to make one where the bass is on A, if I'm correct in that being A. So we take the bass, match it up here, and then we can join these two. We can join those two, except I'm going to color them something different. And I'm going to double click and open them and bring them down to A. Now it's just like a little bit easier to tell that these are two different bass patterns. So let's hear them together. Alright, sounds good to me. Let's go back out of edit mode and let's just bring the drums over. And we will copy and paste them, and let's just hear. Alright, so pretty basic, but definitely better than that first really, really simple song we were making. And just for fun, if we wanted to mess around a little bit, we could join these bass guys up with Control J, double click on them, Control A to select all of them, hit S to undo the snap, bring them down a little bit like that, press S again to bring snap back on, Control C to copy them, bring the playhead over right behind, Control V to paste them, and then we've got a little bit of a double bass, kind of a Euro thing here. I'll mute the lead in case you can't hear the double bass. Let's see, a couple other pretty basic trance bassline things that I do from time to time is like, let's see here. I'm going to Control Z back to the stage where I had some more. There we go. So another kind of a basic trance thing is to have your bass kind of arpeggiate almost. So it goes, let's solo the bass, do Control A to select all the notes here, and then, you know, like paste another note here, but bring it down an octave, and then, oops, sorry, I'm flipping around here, losing my place. And we'll put another one like that, but we'll bring that down. All right, so it's like doo-dee-doot, like that. So it's like, and you'll hear that a lot in bass, in the bass of trance songs too. And it can be used in a cool way. It gives it like more of a solid feel. Alright, I think that's about it for this video. I think in the next video I'm going to just kind of tweak this stuff, make it sound a little bit more crisp.